In this video, we're going to be making an anagram checker in VB.NET, but first we have to ask ourselves is, what is an anagram? Well, an anagram is when you can rearrange the letters of a word and make another word. In Harry Potter, Tom Marvolo Riddle can be rearranged to make I am Lord Voldemort, and here's that scene from the movie. He spells out his name, and it's an anagram for I am Lord Voldemort. So, a simpler example is Mary and Army. Both contain the same letters and we can rearrange them to get the same word. But how do we program one though? Well, we first want to make sure that both words contain the same amount of letters. If they have a different amount of letters, they cannot be an anagram. We also need to make sure that we convert the word the user enters to all lowercase or all uppercase. The computer has a different binary representation for a lowercase m and a capital M. If we're checking for a lowercase m and there's a capital M, the computer is going to say there's not a match because there's a different binary representation. We need to separate each letter from the string inputted. The first letter of the first word needs to be checked against all the other letters in the second word. Well, that can get messy very quickly. Surely there's a better way to do it. There is, by using a built-in method that appears in just about every single programming language. Let's switch over and program it now. So we're over in Visual Studio working on our console application. We have word 1 and word 2. Both of those are strings. Word 1 will hold the first word, and I have a prompt right here to ask the user to enter word 1, and then word 2, that will hold the second word, and I have a prompt right here to get that. Letters 1 and letters 2, those are both 1D arrays of the data type char, and that's because it's going to hold the characters. Letters 1 is going to hold the characters of word 1. Letters 2 is going to hold the characters of word 2, and then we have dim anagram as a boolean, and that way we can use the simple if statement at the end. If it's an anagram, then we're going to output yes, the words are anagrams, else they are not anagrams. So one of the first things we want to do is do a basic check to see if word 1 and word 2 have the same amount of letters. If they do, then we know there's a possibility they are an anagram. If not, then we know we don't even need to run any of the other code. So we're going to do if word 1 dot length equals word 2 dot length, and then we're going to have end if. Now, what we're going to have here is inside this if statement, we're going to have a whole bunch of code that runs. We are not going to put it outside the if statement because there is no point in our code even running if they don't have the same amount of letters. So what we need to do now is we need to go ahead and isolate each letter from each word. And because we want to isolate each letter from each word, string manipulation is going to be used. We're going to do for I equals 1 to word 1 dot length. Now you may be saying, hold on, shouldn't it be word 1 dot length minus 1? No, because Tom Marvolo Riddle, which is going to be our test data, as well as I am Lord Voldemort, what that's going to do is we need to make sure that we get all 18 letters. I'm skipping over index 0 because I'm going to be starting at index 1. If I started at index 0, I would go to word 1 dot length minus 1. But because I'm skipping over index 0, I have to go from I equals 1 to word dot length. Otherwise, I want to be able to get that last letter. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do letters 1, I. And what we want to do is we want to isolate that each letter of the word. And the best way to do that is to use the mid function. I type in the string I'm working with, which is word 1. Then what I want to do is I want to do my starting location, I, and then how many letters I want, which is 1. I need to do that for both letters 1 and letters 2. So I can go ahead and do that at the same time. This time letters 2, I, and that will increment each time the for loop runs. This is going to be word 2, I, comma, 1. That will go ahead and isolate each word. What I need to do now is I need to check to see if they match. And you may be saying, okay, now I got to take the first letter, check it, and make sure it only appears the same amount of times in word 2. That can get messy very quickly, but there's a built-in method that we can use. Because letter 1 and letter 2 is an array, all we need to do is use the built-in sort function, and it looks just like this. We're going to do array.sort. And then all I do is type in the array that I want to sort. I'll do letters 1. And then what I will also do is I will do letters 2. This will put it in alphabetical order. Something else we need to do is make sure it's all lowercase. So what we need to do is we need to go back up here, and what we need to do is make word 1 and word 2 lowercase. We only really need to do that if they equal the same amount of letters. So what we're going to do is word 1 equals, and we're going to do L case, and that will switch everything to lowercase, and we're going to do word 1. And then we're going to update word 2, and we're going to make all that lowercase. Now, it doesn't matter if you make it uppercase or lowercase. It just needs to be the same. Obviously, you don't want to make word 1 lowercase and then word 2 uppercase. That would not work at all. So all we do now is, now that we've sorted it, we just need to check to see if the first letter in letters 1 matches the first letter in letters 2. If so, then we'll check the second letter. So what we need to do is we need to run a for loop for that one as well. And when you're running this for loop to check each letter, you got to be a little careful. I'll show you what most people would probably do, which is a slight oversight and why it wouldn't work. So we'll do for I equals 1 to 18. Now you may be saying, well, what if they enter a word that's not 18 characters long? Well, it's going to go ahead and put in blank spaces for those, and it'll go ahead and it will sort it in the array as well. So as long as we have an equal amount of blank spaces, we'll be okay, and it will still run, and we'll test with our test data. But what most people are going to do is this. They're going to do if letters I, or letters 1I, equals letters 2I, and this is not what you want to do, then they're going to do this. They're going to do then anagram, which is our Boolean value, equals true, else anagram equals false. And that is not what you want to do, because what's going to happen is if we're checking each letter of each word, let's say the first 3 words don't match. Well, that's going to set anagram to false. But let's say the very last letter of the word matches. That's going to set it to true, and then it's going to say they're anagrams. The opposite is also true. What if the first 3 letters match, but the last letter doesn't match? Well, then it's going to change it from true, and it's going to change it to false. That will work out, but we need to account so that way it's not switching from false to true. True to false could work out possibly in some rare instances, but we need it working 100% of the time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this equals to not equals. If it's not equal, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set anagram equal to false, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit my for loop. I do not need to bother checking any other letters. The other thing I need to do is not accidentally switch this value to true. If those last letters match up, I don't want to change it from false to true. And then we definitely need that end if there. So I think that will do it. What we need to do now is we just need to code an if statement. Now this if statement I'm going to put outside. You could put it inside. I'm going to put it outside just so it's a little easier to read. If anagram equals true, then all we're going to do is output a message that says they are anagrams. Else, and if they're not anagrams, if it's not true, they are not anagrams. And because this will handle checking whether it's true or false, I don't need to set it beforehand. So what we're going to do is we're going to run our program. We're going to type in Tom Marvolo Riddle. Then we're going to type in I am Lord Voldemort and see if they are anagrams. And then we'll test it with Army and Mary and make sure they match up. Before we run our program, we need to update this. There are 3 types of people in this world, those who can count and those who can't. And I obviously am the type that cannot count. So I am Lord Voldemort and Tom Marvolo Riddle. Those are actually 19 characters. So let's go ahead and test this out. So we have Tom Marvolo Riddle, and then we have I am Lord Voldemort, and I just realized something. This is going to say they're not anagrams. They are not equal here, and that is because Tom Marvolo Riddle has 2 spaces. I am Lord Voldemort has 3 spaces. So when we hit enter, this should say they are not anagrams, and it says they are not anagrams. So what we're going to do here is we need to make sure they have the same amount of spaces. So I'm going to do Tom Marvolo Riddle space, and then I'm going to do I am Lord Voldemort. And now that they have the same amount of spaces, we can actually check the letters, and they are anagrams. If we wanted to get really fancy, which we're not going to in this video, we could simply remove the spaces, and that way we can simply check the letters. We could do that in a future video, but we're getting ready to wrap this one up. Mary and Army, they are anagrams. We also need to check words that we know are not anagrams. So words and flapjack, those are not anagrams whatsoever. They are not anagrams. So that's going to conclude this video. Hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to help the channel grow. We'll see you guys in the next video.